Welcome to the Agency Insider, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the digital marketing world. I'm Navneet Kaushal, your host, and we are here to bring you insights, strategies, and the inside scoop from industry leaders. Today, we have a special guest who needs no introduction in the SEO world. He's the master behind Wix SEO strategy. Please welcome the incredible Mordy Oberstein, head of SEO brand at Wix. Thank you for joining today.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yes. So let's dive right into it. You held various SEO positions throughout your career. Can you walk us through your SEO journey and how it led you to your current role at Wix?
Yeah, so I actually started SEO on the content side of things. I was a teacher at one point, and I was working for an educational software company, writing content for them, educational content. And they asked me, hey, you're one of the only native English speakers here. Could you write web content? I'm like, I can write anything, whatever you want. I can write it. I said, great. Can you also get organic traffic from what you write? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. What's organic traffic? And that's how I started my SEO journey. It's like 10 years ago. So like around 2013, 14, something like that.
All right. So that's where it started. And now you are at the Wix. So of course, head of SEO brand at Wix. I mean, you find head of SEO, head of digital. What exactly the head of SEO brand means?
So my SEO career has been pretty interesting. I've always kind of straddled this line between the SEO side and the marketing side of things. So for example, I'm at Rank Ranger, which is one of the SEO platforms, got bought out by SimilarWeb. So I started off there as their content manager, head of marketing, their CMO. So I've done a lot of things. Like we grew traffic for the blog like 200% over the course of, I think was 2 years, something like that. So I've always done like the SEO side, but also the marketing side of it. So like while working to grow their blog 200% over the course of 2 years, we were also doing things around growing ourselves as a leader in the SEO space, thought leadership, authority building, that kind of thing. So I've always kind of straddled both the SEO and I'll call it the brand marketing world. I was at Semrush for a while doing head of their comms. So on the Wix side, it's an interesting role. It's about basically how Wix or Wix Studio positions itself for SEOs, right? So what do we want SEOs to know about the platform? How do we want SEOs to feel about the platform? How do we want digital marketers in general to feel and to relate to the Wix Studio and the Wix platforms? And a lot of that is also internal education for our users. So it's an interesting role between somewhere like SEO education, brand marketing, and with our Wix SEO Learning Hub, actual SEO.
Okay. So what are you the guy paying $20,000 to the SEO who get ranks for the Wix?
No. I'm the guy who's...
You know that, right?
No. I'm the guy, I don't feel like, Wix has an interesting relationship with SEO historically. Back in the day, we were built on Flash. SEOs didn't love us. I didn't love Wix way back in the day. So I was the person who came in and said, hey, wait a second, Wix isn't what you think it is for SEO. Here's what you need to know about SEO for Wix, and sort of like change that whole positioning around how SEOs feel about Wix. We've gone from industry pariah to, I'll say, industry leader in SEO.
Okay. Yeah. I still remember a lot of people. I mean, I run an SEO agency, and when somebody say, can you optimize Wix?
Right. So the fact that you don't think about Wix that way, like I'm that dude.
Right. So that's interesting. So what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced in the SEO industry, and how have you overcome, including the one where Wix is not loved by the SEOs?
So, I mean, from a community standpoint, I think the biggest challenge was how do you go from what I'll call was being a toxic relationship between Wix and the SEO community to creating a healthy relationship. Forget leading the community. Like we're doing meetups with Search Engine Journal, with the latest Solis, with John Shahada. Forget leading the SEO community. How do you get to a place where you have a healthy relationship with the SEO community is probably the biggest challenge. On the SEO side, we have our whole SEO Learning Hub. I think like one of the advantages of having an SEO Learning Hub under the Wix domain is that the Wix domain carries a lot of authority with it.
Right.
So ranking is probably not our hardest issue. I think our hardest issue, this is for all you enterprise SEOs out there, is when you have multiple sections within a website or multiple publications in a website, think like the New York Times and the Wirecutter or the New York Times and the Athletic. How do you find that niche for that subset of the website, right? So How do you make sure that we're not overlapping with, let's say, the Wix blog, or how do we make sure we're not overlapping with what e-com is doing? So making sure that we stay in our lane and that we help the domain authority overall, but we don't let's say, cannibalize our efforts, kind of thing. I think that's the biggest SEO challenge for us.
Okay.
My
Now,
team in particular.
yeah. And in your experience, what are the most common SEO misconceptions that the businesses have, and what are the most common misconception about Wix business have? So these are two questions.
Ooh, okay. I think let's start with the later one first. I think the most common misconception has nothing to do with SEO at this point. I think the most common misconception about Wix is that you can't customize things, or you're limited, which is completely not true. Like, for example, in Wix Studio, which is our platform for agencies, you can customize the CSS. It's open to you. On both Wix and Wix Studio, first off, there's a Wix headless option. But on both platforms, you can customize. You have a full stack dev tool called Velo, which is an in-house tool that you can customize all of the JavaScript, whatever you want. So there's an absolute ton that you can do to customize a website. You can add custom scripts. You can add things to the header. There's really, outside of touching your server, which for most people, you're going to lock yourself out of the server. There's really not much you can't do on a Wix website to customize it. So I think that's the biggest misconception there. On the SEO side, I think the biggest misconception SEOs have now in general about SEO is, or businesses have about SEO, I think both. I think both businesses and SEOs both have the same misconception, which is SEO is siloed. I'm going to do SEO. And I think we're quickly moving into a world where there's no such thing as doing SEO. I think that's true on the more technical side of SEO.
Right.
But if you're looking at SEO as a wider discipline, I don't think there's doing SEO. I think there's building your digital footprint. And I think SEO is a big part of building your digital footprint, because Google drives the most traffic to websites out of any other platform. So I think SEOs need to think about SEO broader than just traditional SEO. And I think businesses need to realize that what they're doing on the SEO side should be interjected and connected with the wider branding efforts that they're doing overall.
Okay. So it's like a SEO is not in silo. It's part of a marketing mix.
It's part of a whole thing. Yeah. Like, I'll give you like just a concrete sort of example. The way I think about Google is that Google's like a moth. Google is looking for whoever has the biggest digital light possible. So just like a moth that gravitates to the brightest light, Google will gravitate to whoever has the largest and most powerful digital presence out there. That means that in order to help your SEO efforts, you might want to focus on social, getting your URLs out there, getting things shared, getting people to go on social media, see what you're doing, and then go to Google and do a branded search, X brand plus whatever product, whatever service you're offering. I think Search Engine Journal recently did an article, Roger Monti did an article about a Google patent, an old Google patent, showing that Google looks at branded searches in order to understand who you are, in order to see how relevant you are, which I don't think you needed a patent to understand. If you're I don't know, Nike, if people are searching for Nike shoes, Nike tennis shoes, Nike running shoes, Google sees all of those Nike searches related to shoes and understands that, okay, in the shoe space, Nike is an authority. But a lot of that authority building doesn't happen on search. A lot of that authority building happens on other platforms like YouTube or social media.
Right. So of course, as everybody says, if you are starting, the first thing is to build your brand. Even if you are doing social media, it's your brand out there. You put your brand, forget the keywords.
Yeah. Focus on your brand. As a rule, focus on your brand.
Right. Now, I also have some misconception about Wix, which I'm sure my listeners also would have. So can I shoot some of those very quick questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. My developer. Now we can't do hashtag optimizations. I can't change There are all wrong hashtags. I can't change it in Wix. True or false?
Which tags?
Header tags.
Oh no, header tags? No. Super easy. You can change them on the page level. You can set them at the folder level. So let's say, for example, like I'm a local business.
Right.
Or I'm a store. I'm a big e-com store, right? And I want in all of my products, I want the price in the title tag.
Okay.
2 clicks, right? I go to that folder where I have all my products. I set that the title tag should always show the price for all of the products, and we dynamically match the price from the page to your title tag. If you're, let's say, for example, robots meta tags, I'm a big proponent of Google Discover. I think it's a great source for traffic. John Shahada from Newsdash put out a study recently showing that publishers are getting a lot more traffic from Discover and less traffic from traditional search. If you're trying to optimize for Discover, there's not a lot you can do to specifically optimize to get placement there. It's about your entity as a whole. But if you do show up in Google Discover, you'll notice some sites show up with a small little image and some sites with the larger card.
Yes.
You need to set your max image preview to the large image to get set up with that larger image in Google Discover. You can do that at Wix at the page level, but again, you can do that at the folder level. You can say all of my blog pages, I want the max image preview to be set to large so that when my articles get shown in the Discover feed, they are with the large thumbnail and not the small thumbnail. So header tags, robots meta tags, super easy. We have an AI meta tag creator.
Wow. That's super easy. Honestly, didn't knew that. Misconception number 2. If I create a new page, I don't want to link it from the header. I just want to link it from the footer of the page. Can I do that?
So you want to have a jump link to the footer of the page? Yeah.
Let's say I want to create a specific city page, but I don't want it linked in the header navigation. I just want it footer near somewhere around copyright. Okay, cities we serve in, because it will not look good in the header. So can I do that?
Yeah, you can put your links wherever you want.
Okay.
No problem. Yep.
I can modify robot.txt as I want.
You can modify
robots.txt.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Robot.txt, fully customized. So we optimize it by default. So for example, we'll exclude, I think, what is it, like Hawaii's bot, the Chinese phone app. I think we exclude that from, because they're just like crawl. We saw no benefit to it, but I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure we do. Pedalbot, I think it's called. But you can fully customize it. It's open to you. One of the cool things, by the way, is that if you're in there, you change something in the the robot.txt file, and you're like, wait a second, I totally screwed that up. You can reset to default in one click.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. I can do 301s.
Yeah. On many page types, for example, let's say your static pages, so like your home page, your about page, any kind of, let's say, landing page you built as a static page, we'll do an automatic redirect for you. So for example, let's say you changed it from mysite.com/about to mysite.com/about.
Okay.
It's a main page. It's a static page. We'll implement the 301 for you. You have to do nothing. Okay. And we'll tell you that we're doing it when you do it. Beyond that, you can bulk redirect. So you can import up to 500 and you can just bulk redirect them. You can also do it by path. So let's say you're changing all of the URLs from mysite.com/post to mysite.com/blog, whatever it is. So anything under that folder will be automatically redirected as well.
Okay. One last question. What about the technical SEO? Because that plays a role. So is it already optimized? Because a lot of businesses fail issue when it comes to Shopify. They pick a wrong theme and then the site is slow because it doesn't show up in the Google. Everything is screwed up. So how does it work with Wix?
Yeah, so a lot of the technical things you can handle. You can reorder the DOM. So you're trying to deal with CLS. You can reorder the DOM. In Wix Studio, we try to optimize the DOM automatically for you, the way that it should be, but you can customize all of those sort of things. Some things on the technical side we try to do again for you, like we automatically optimize your sitemaps for you. Okay. There's flexibility. So by the way, so I was like, Wix sites you have to do this by a geo, but I'm thinking of the US on mobile. I think it's close to 70% of Wix websites pass Core Web Vitals on mobile in the US off the bat. Okay. But again, there are a lot of things that you can do. We automatically, for example, compress images for you.
Okay, so you don't have to pay the plugin.
Right, we don't need to do a plugin. We automatically compress the image. We actually automatically cache pages for you unless you interject custom code. So again, there's a customizable thing. You can interject custom code on a Wix website. And what we do is we don't cache the page for you. We automatically stop caching it. Why? Because we don't know the logic of your custom code. So let's say, for example, you added a stock widget. So if we're caching the page once an hour, that might not be quick enough for you. But so in those instances, you can set automatic caching. So again, there's a lot of flexibility in what you can and what you can't do. There's a lot of things you can remove. If they're third-party scripts, those are completely up to you. They can weigh things down. They cannot weigh things down. That's up to you.
Okay. So I think that would be a lot of misconceptions our listeners would
Yeah.
have, which now are no longer the misconceptions. So
Yep.
thank you for sharing all that. Moving
Anytime.
on now, you've been a pioneer in merging SEO with brand marketing, as we spoke as well. Can you share how the role of SEO has evolved in the branding landscape over the last few years, and especially at
Yeah, so I think in general your first, I think what we've done is like way ahead of the curve. I think you're first starting to really see SEO and brand sort of merging now. I think part of that is to do with the Google leaks that came out a few months ago, where people started saying, "Oh, wait a second, Google's looking at mentions. A mention is a brand play; it's not an SEO play." But if Google's looking at mentions, like, "Oh, I need to focus on mentions." Like, you should always focus on mentions, but okay. So you're first starting to see that sort of thing happening. I think you're also starting to see brand play a bigger role in general inside of marketing. I wrote an article about this on Search Engine Journal 2 weeks ago about why you should be focusing on brand marketing. And actually, in a few hours after recording this podcast, I have a follow-up article going about how you balance brand and performance marketing that's going out on Search Engine Journal. So look for those, because I'll get way into the weeds there. But basically, I think the web as an ecosystem is moving to a place where you're going to be focusing more on brand for a few reasons. One is users are kind of woken up to the idea, people, forget users, I hate that word. People have woken up to the idea that what I should be spoken to, meaning don't speak at me with web jargon, the most powerful optimized platform ever. Give me something real. And also let me decide when I want to buy. Stop pushing me so hard. So I think there's that. And I think there's the idea of the AI, the proliferation of AI generated content is waking people up. Like, wait a second, is this real? Is this just the same old garbage? And brands are waking up to the idea, I need to be more differentiated. So you have people looking to be spoken to and have an actual conversation and being engaged on a real level and having the ability and the autonomy to decide, I do want to buy, I don't want to buy. And you have brands looking to differentiate themselves more. Both of that speak to brand marketing. Like, differentiating yourself is done via brand marketing. If users are not looking to be pushed into the sales funnel, but they want to come to it on their own, that's also brand marketing, because now you need to have top of the funnel brand awareness. If people are not going to be just thrown into the funnel, you want them to know who you are, know that you're somebody who is very authoritative or relevant to this service or this product, and have them, as I mentioned before, Google you or go directly to your website. You want people to know that if I'm selling widgets, let me Google this company. I know they're the ones who sell the widgets. It gives the user more autonomy. It gives them the choice of when to come to you, when to buy from you, when to engage with you, and how to engage with you. And that's all done with brand marketing. So brand marketing is more and more in focus, which as a concept, we can get into how that works, pushes SEO more into brand marketing, because the companies themselves and the users themselves, the people themselves, the audience themselves are looking for something that's better serviced by brand than anything else.
Right. Now, how do you see this working for a small brand versus, let's say, larger enterprises?
I think it's, I've talked about this a lot. Like, I think there's a misconception in general, like, oh, I'm a small brand, I can't compete. It's the complete opposite. Branding gives you the ability to carve out a niche of the web for yourself. Branding is kind of what gives a small business the ability to have a presence. And I think part of the misconception is that, oh, the only way to do brand marketing is to go viral. The only way to do brand marketing is I need to be a super authority. I need to be a knowledge power. That's not necessarily true. You know, a small business, for example, I'll give you an actual case, Starbucks.
Right.
I think Starbucks is a great case. I don't know if people know this, but Starbucks has gone under a lot of trouble recently. Some of it has to do with consumer trends and with their marketing strategies. Some of it just has to do with the fact that there's an interview with I think CBS or CNBC, I forgot who it was. They were interviewing people, why don't you like Starbucks anymore? And one of the responses back was, I feel like Starbucks just became too corporate. And Starbucks is now facing an issue where if I'm a person and I have two stores right in front of me, the local cafe and Starbucks, I'm going with the local cafe because Starbucks just gives me an icky corporate feel, whereas the local cafe might actually not have good coffee, but I feel, oh, it's boutique, it's
Right.
niche, it's local. It was the same thing that happened to beer companies over the, I don't know, like the last 20 years.
Right.
The smaller craft breweries started popping up, gaining market share, and some of the big breweries dealt with it by controlling distribution. That's a whole complicated story of how they do that. But some of them dealt with it by leaning into being more niche, being more local. So Coors created Blue Moon, which is a craft brew that people don't realize is actually part of Coors, but it comes off as craft. Starbucks would be doing well to do the same thing. Starbucks would do well to create a sub-brand that's local, where it's not necessarily Starbucks, it's Bob's Coffee, but really it's Starbucks. Local brands have that power going for it. You're grassroots, you're likable, you're not corporate, you're all of those things. And they should lean into that to gain market share. What I think what local brands do that make a mistake is they feel like, oh, we need to compete with Starbucks and we need to be an authority. We need to have market share like Starbucks. No, you don't. You need to be differentiated from Starbucks. So instead of trying to fight the big brands for visibility, fighting the big brands for that brand persona, I would find the opportunity by looking, what are the big brands not? What can't they do? And be that and serve that. And don't go, I need to get 1 million people drinking my coffee like Starbucks. Think about how you can steer your brand identity and brand positioning to take advantage of everything Starbucks can't be.
Right. Right. I completely agree with you. I think that's one reason why Starbucks replaced their CEO and their share moved 20% just yesterday.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Now, how can, of course, so when it comes to brand marketing, I understand for a small business, but how can small businesses leverage SEO to not only improve their rankings, but also build a strong brand identity?
Yeah, so I think like one thing to realize about SEO and branding is your content is your brand. Whatever you put out there is your brand. That's what people can see, and that's how they can interpret what you're doing. Understanding that you need to balance your SEO strategy with your brand strategy. For example, if you're a small business who's just gonna go after the local SEO keywords or going after the whatever keyword market share you can gain and going full on SEO with it, everything kind of feels like SEO content. Everything kind of comes off as SEO content. You're doing yourself a disservice. You might win the rankings, but once the user gets to you, what are they feeling about you? What's the associations they're creating? What's the sentiment they're creating? So you need to balance having a very strategic SEO strategy to capitalize on local SEO or local keyword market share, doing it in a way that doesn't tarnish your brand. Look, when a brand does something like dentist near me, and they name their brand dentist near me,
Yeah,
people aren't stupid. They know why you're doing that, and you come off as a little bit spammy. I am not letting you near my mouth. I don't care how cheap you are. I'm not letting you near my mouth. So you
right.
need to balance that local strategy to get those local keywords with not coming off as overly like manipulative and scammy at the same time.
Right. So in many of your talks, you emphasize the importance of user-centric content. And how does Wix incorporate user intent and behavior into its SEO strategies?
I mean, look at what we're doing now. So we have like a Wix blog and we have an SEO learning hub. A lot of the topics that we cover kind of overlap. So the Wix blog will cover what is SEO. We will not cover what is SEO on the SEO learning hub as a keyword targeting. Why? Because there's different intents. The intent of our Wix SEO learning hub is geared towards SEO professionals or SEO enthusiasts or people who are doing SEO for a long time or getting started in SEO. It's SEO from a more professional mindset. Like I earn my living or I'm building up my business with SEO. Whereas if you're on the Wix blog and you're maybe a self-creator or you're a business owner and you're just looking to get a little dabble into what is SEO, I'm just looking to get started. That's not the same intent. Those are two different intents. It might be the same keyword and we can both rank for them on different parts of the website, but if you're looking for what is SEO, we look at that as you're really, really just at the very, very beginning of your journey, maybe a professional SEO learning center is not for you yet. We might steer you there. In that article on the Wix blog, we might have links to, hey, if you now know about SEO and you want to go a little bit deeper into the weeds, here's a whole learning hub about it. But we're not going to try to target you with the wrong asset at the wrong time. We'll try to use our assets and line them up with user intent.
Okay. So we can also show how, where the person is in the funnel. Is it in the bottom of the funnel? It's kind of similar, right?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it as like less of like, I look at it, at least I want to speak for the entire team, as less about funnels and more about where the user mindset is, which I think would align to a funnel. I think the funnel is messy, which I don't like thinking about funnels because of that. But if you think about where the user is on their learning journey, it should usually match up to where they are in their buying journey also.
Right.
I hope.
Yeah, yes. So now, what are your thoughts on the current state of SEO education? And are there any resources you would recommend for beginners? I know one for sure, the SEO Learning Hub at Wix, but what are your thoughts?
There are a lot of great resources. Obviously, I'm pitching the SEO Learning Hub. We have a lot so we have a podcast, we have webinars, we do a daily news series. So you can keep up with the SEO news with Barry Schwartz, who's like the king of SEO news. There's a lot there. I will say, like, diving deeper into the SEO news is a great way to learn SEO. It's how I learned SEO, to be honest with you. I went to SEOroundtable.com. I still go to SEOroundtable.com every day in the morning, search and land, all those kind of websites to see like what's going on, where's the SEO world heading. And I think what happens at the same time, you'll start seeing things like, Barry will cover a certain topic. Like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And that still happens to me every once in a while. Barry, I'm like, what is that? And you start Googling and start researching yourself, like, what is that topic? So I think that's a great way to learn about SEO. Social media can still be a great way to learn about SEO. So follow people like Glenn Gabe. Glenn Gabe is an absolute wealth of SEO knowledge. Follow him on X. Aleta Solis is an absolute wealth of SEO knowledge. She's on LinkedIn and X. Glenn's also on LinkedIn. So following the right people will lead you to the right resources because they'll quote the right resources for you as well.
Right. Those are some of actually good content creators for SEO. And of course, you get a lot of information. I follow almost all of them.
Yeah, they're really great. Like Glenn is great. Aleta is great. Kevin Indig, Eli Schwartz. There's a ton of people out there.
I have interviewed Eli just recently as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Nathan Gosh also does good.
Yeah, there's really a lot of good people. You do have to be careful because there are some people who might have very large followings who may not be the best at giving you the best SEO advice.
Yeah, because recently I've seen most of the people who are giving best SEO advice. If you ask when was the last time you read this, they say a couple of years back. So that doesn't hold true now. So
yeah, or there's a lot of like, what's traditionally called a bad name for it, but black hat SEO, like link building or link building in a nefarious or manipulative kind of way. And a lot of those people have a lot of huge followings, but they're giving you advice that actually I think isn't helpful long term to you.
Right. With the constant evaluation of Google algorithms, how do you stay ahead of the curve and ensure Wix SEO strategies remain effective? I know one is by reading all these blogs, but are there any other way you stay ahead? And how do you ensure that Wix SEO strategies, especially once these Google updates recently came?
So a general point, like the current ecosystem around SEO is very difficult. There's been a lot of upheaval, a lot of inconsistency on Google's part, and a lot of just things don't seem to be working exactly right. I think if you were to ask Google, honestly, is this working the way that you intended it to work? I think they would say no. And then we need to fix it, which is why you have people like Google Search Liaison, Denny Sullivan, meeting with websites, talking where we're taking feedback. We're trying to see what's going on. John Mueller, Google Search Advocate, has even said, yeah, we expect things to change with the next core update. So I think they get it. Like something happened that didn't go just right. And I'm not saying, I think people are very negative on Google about that. I think it's very hard to get it right, especially as you see, as I mentioned before, consumer content consumption behavior patterns are changing, both because of what users are expecting and both because what's being put out there because of the AI content, generative content. it's hard to get it right. I think Google's looking to get certain things done that the web isn't ready for yet. And that's on both of us as content creators and on Google to get that right. For example, firsthand knowledge in content. Google says we want it. Google dumped a bunch of Reddit on the result pages to get that because we haven't created it for Google. And that's both because we're not focused on that and because Google hasn't incentivized that. We're both at fault for that.
Right.
So it just makes it a complicated landscape to rank content or to feel confident in what my strategy is to rank content, because I can be doing the right things and not, I think now more than ever, you might be doing the right things and not getting the results that you wanted to, at least in the immediate sense.
Yes.
I think it's important, and I can't speak to the wider SEO strategy at Wix. Obviously, we speak to the wider SEO teams, but on our SEO Learning Hub, we are all about, our SEO strategy is all about doing the right thing long-term. What is the right way to create content for users that speak to the intent, that speak to the users, that help build up our brand, that help create content that's differentiated, that even though it might not rank right now, we feel confident that once Google gets things under control, will be the content that ranks. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more, we have the luxury of doing that because we're not trying to build signups on our SEO Learning Hub. We're trying to build a brand. If you are trying to get signups and conversions and revenue, obviously that approach is way more anxiety ridden and way more complicated. I will say it doesn't mean that you should abandon it just because it's not working right now. Think about what's best long term for the health of your content and mitigate that by trying to do the things that'll maybe move the needle right now. But I wouldn't abandon an entire content strategy because Google's not working right now. Play the long game.
Right. That's a good advice, because even if a lot of people left affiliate marketing, a lot of people said Google, jillion of things, but I believe there is a course correction coming ahead.
Yeah, it's a course correction on both sides. Look, affiliate marketers, I don't want to, call them out, but there are a lot of things going on that I think weren't healthy for the state of the web that Google, we have a whole podcast episode about this with Glenn Gabe where we go is Google at war with affiliates? And the answer is yes. I think Google is at war with affiliate marketing. But that doesn't mean that done right, Google won't reward affiliate marketing either.
Right. Now, let's talk about AI and SEO. Of course, any podcast, how can we leave AI? So the AI is, of course, has rapidly transformed content creation. So what are your thoughts on use of AI in generating content? Do you think it can ever fully replace human creativity?
I'll give you a hot take. I think that's crazy. I think even the thought that it could is crazy. Yes, AI is a very powerful tool. I think there's been a couple of things that we need to take a pause. Just because something is amazing, it's cool, it's innovative, wow, doesn't mean there's a business case to using it. Those are two very different questions. So yeah, AI can do all these great, cool things, but when I apply it to my business use, does it actually work the way that I want it to or not? That's two very different questions. And I think what you're seeing, at least in the marketing space, is a subtle pushback where everyone's AI, amazing. And now wait a second. Is this differentiating me enough? Is this giving me the ability to rank well enough? Maybe I don't want to go all in on AI. And I think you have, things like, oh, you're selling me on an AI tool. I think you're starting to see, even in public now, marketers saying, pause. Is this what I really want? And does it really work the way that I want it to? I know that it's AI and it sounds cool, but let's hash this out a little bit more. So there is a place for AI. If you're not adopting AI, if you're not thinking about AI, if you're not focused on AI, I think you've missed the boat. If you've gone at the same time, if you've gone all in on AI, too far. There has to be a balance between using AI and using AI the right way. If you're using it to spin up content, I think that's the wrong way to use AI. I think if you want to generate ideas, if you want to refine things, if you want to say, hey, I wrote this post, something about it isn't working right, could you maybe redo the tone for me? Could you give me some ideas? Could you redo the headings for me? I think if you give AI a particular mission to do within a walled off context where you're giving it parameters, where you're saying, take something I already did and make it better or make it different or generate ideas for me, that's a great way to use AI.
Right. That's a good use case, actually. Now, how does Wix balance the use of AI tools with the need of authentic brand aligned content?
I mean, look, we're a platform, right? So we give you the tools. What you do with them are completely up to you.
Right.
So, for example, we have an AI meta tag creator. So I can write a title tag or a meta description. The AI will scan the page. You can even tell the AI. I'm talking like it's an actual thing of the AI. You can even tell it what's your focus keyword, and it'll spit back a title tag or a meta description for you. I love using it for meta descriptions. I don't care about meta descriptions. Go ahead, write me a meta description.
That's not a ranking factor, just a click.
It's not really a ranking factor directly. Google's rewriting them anyway, half the time anyway. And what the AI outputs is generally pretty good because, again, it's a walled context. You're not telling it, write me a meta description. You're saying, look what I wrote on the page. Take this keyword and now write me something. You're giving it some context or some meat to work with.
Right.
So again, it's but I might not. I might say, hey, wait a second. Like, this is a really important keyword for me, a really important converting page. What the AI wrote is good, but it's not good enough. Or I want to refine the messaging because it's something that's really important to me. I'm going to put my own personal spice and touch into it. What you do with the AI, like we can give you AI that spins up websites. We have AI that spins out content. You could do all of those things. Do I recommend you go, okay, click the button and do it and then leave it? 1000% no. That is not how you should be using our tools for AI or our AI tools. You should be using them, but then putting your own personal emphasis or own personal touch or own personal focus into it afterwards.
Right. Now, there's been a lot of discussions around EEAT, and of course, can you elaborate on the importance of EEAT in SEO and how can business build it?
Yeah, so there's always been this SEO. I guess I'll say it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a not a confrontation. It starts with a C. Conflict, no. Oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't get it out there. But a scandal, all right, whatever. There's been like an SEO scandal of some sort. It's not the word I was looking for. Where is EAT part of the ranking system? Is it not part of the ranking system? Blah, blah, blah. So EAT comes from Google's quality rater guidelines. Those are the actual people Google is paying to review content. And Google's telling them, here are some guidelines about how you should score this content. And part of this scoring that they do is called EAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Great. Is it playing a role in the algorithm? So I'll say two things on this. One, who cares? If Google is telling its readers, this is how you should be looking at quality, then that automatically tells us that this is what Google really wants to do with quality or how it really defines page quality. So why wouldn't you do that? The second thing why it doesn't matter is if it's good for your users, which it is, then do that. The third thing is Google has said that they try to simulate as best as they can what quality to a human would be with the algorithm. Obviously, it's not a one-to-one, but they're trying to assess quality algorithmically. You saw that with what was the helpful content update, which is now part of the actual core algorithm, where quality is a domain level construct.
Metrics, right?
Right. So you clearly see Google is looking at quality, is trying to simulate the quality the best that it could from how a user or a person will look at it. So obviously looking at EAT would be helpful in understanding how Google is thinking about quality. So the answer is yes. On multiple fronts, you should be looking at what is Google saying about EAT, and you should really be going beyond it.
Right.
How would you best define what's experience-led content? What's expertise-led content? How would you define authority that even goes beyond what Google is saying in their quality rater guidelines and what speaks to the actual user themselves?
Right. So do you follow or use EEAT guidelines on Wix blog?
I mean, look, when we're writing content, we do want to make sure, for example, on the Wix SEO Learning Hub, that we have our authors there prominently, so you know who wrote it. You can understand that this person is an expert on this topic. Does that play into the algorithm? I would like to think so. we very much try to focus on offering you an experience in the content that's driven by people's actual experience on that topic. So if we're talking about how to build an SEO report, so we have an article from Judith Lewis on that. Judith Lewis is an expert on creating SEO reporting, and she's pulling in her own experience of crafting SEO reporting over the last 15 years or more. I don't want to shortchange Judith, into how you should be crafting your SEO report. So we like to think that we're naturally integrating EAT into our content simply based on our own editorial guidelines. Right? So our editorial guidelines are focused on crafting content based on what's actually worked for you. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to spit out some content.
Okay. Now, let's talk about challenges in the SEO today. Of course, there are a lot of challenges we both know. So what are some unique SEO challenges that website builders like Wix face, and how are they addressing them?
I mean, I think it's the same challenges that we're all kind of facing. The ecosystem is very uncertain. You have things like the AI overviews. So in the US, particularly, Google has unleashed its AI overviews, the AIOs. Different data sets will say how often they actually show up, ranging from like very, not very commonly at all.
That is the you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the SGE. What was SGE? Google's now rebranded as AI overviews. How are they playing a role in what's ranking, in the traffic you're going to get? I think we're still not there in terms of understanding that ecosystem. I think people are freaking out. One thing that I'm looking at, by the way, is like, okay, great. The AI overviews may show up 15% of the time, or 15% of queries, or 7% of queries, depending upon the data set. But one thing to think about is how secure are the URLs? Is Google using a different URL inside of the same AI overview one day to the next day? We don't know yet. By the way, little like, I don't know, like a soft pitch or teaser. It's something that I'm working with SEMrush now on doing a study about. Like how consistent is URL placement inside of an AI overview? Because that might change my entire strategy, or it might change how much I actually care to focus on AI. If Google is showing the same URL every single day inside an AI overview, maybe it's worth getting that link. If Google is showing a different one every single day, okay, yeah, the AI overview is there, but maybe it's not worth spending my time on. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. And that's doubled down on the fact that the algorithm seems a little bit wonky. There's a ton of Reddit on the SERP. Google is maybe not showing the best results for the queries right now. It's all kind of an ecosystem of uncertainty right now. I think that is the biggest challenge to an SEO professional at the moment.
Right. I completely agree. Now, just a follow-up question, of course, more complex than ever. Are there any other biggest challenges you see for SEO today, particularly when trying to align their brand?
I think from that front, the biggest challenge for an SEO is that SEOs are fundamentally performance marketers. And I don't think performance marketing is what makes sense right now. So if you look, for example, what Nike did, Nike went all in on performance marketing since COVID. It's been a giant disaster for them and actually led to other brands, let's say like Hoka or On, to having more shelf space at stores like Foot Locker, which is not what Nike wanted. It gave their competitors an opportunity to really get a very strong foothold because they went all in on performance marketers. And I know SEOs listening to this will probably call me a heretic for saying this, but as a brand, you do not want to give the keys to the kingdom or the keys to the car to the performance marketing team, to the SEOs. What you really want to do is have SEO or performance marketing in general sit under brand and communications, so that there's a unified approach to how we're presenting ourselves, what opportunities are available to us because of our overall brand power, and what do we and don't we want to seize, and how do we want to seize it from a much wider strategy beyond just SEO or just performance. Because if you do, you'll end up in a situation where you're not aligned to what your audience actually expects, which is literally what happened with Nike. And then you see, by the way, it impacts the other side. Nike's brand team, I think right now is completely out of sync. They're not where they want to be, and they're not putting out the messaging they want to, because the overall company is out of sync because of they doubled down on performance, which is a totally different conversation. But it's super interesting to see what Nike did. I think they're the paradigm for not going all in on performance, because it'll mess you up on the performance side, and it'll mess you up on the brand side.
Right.
I know like all your entire audience is like shaking their head at me like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. We're all performance marketers. What are you saying? We want more control, not less.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
Sorry. I'm really sorry I said that.
No, you just said what is right. So how do you advise brands dealing with these challenges, especially in a rapidly challenging market? Of course, when you said don't give it everything to the performance marketer, but otherwise, how do you advise?
Yeah, I think brands are, you know what? I'll compare it to affiliate marketers. I think affiliate marketers now realize that you have to take your foot a little bit off the gas pedal. You can't go full on trying to get traffic to the affiliate sites because you know Google's going to kill you if you do that. In this case, it's not Google, not just Google that's going to kill you. It's your own consumer base that's going to do it, or your own potential consumer base. If you go full on in on what performance marketing will tell you to do, which is maximize revenue, maximize KPIs, ignore the wider messaging, and go with what works right now to get a sign up, to get a conversion, to get a dollar spent, I think in a year from now, 2 years, whatever it is, your overall consumer base is going to kill you. And they're going to say, we don't like that. Just like they're saying with Starbucks now, it's too corporate. They're going to say to you, like, that's too much. That's too salesy. It's too markety. It's too controlling. It's too coercive. It's too bothersome. It's too whatever. You have to take your foot off the gas pedal. And I think, by the way, I'll give you another hot take. I think it's going to mean that brand teams are going to have to start realizing that half the things they're doing are not actual brand marketing. It's product marketing and performance marketing in disguise. You going online and you saying, we have the best product is not brand marketing. That's product marketing, which is basically like the borderline before you get to performance marketing. So I think everyone needs to take a break, take a chill pill, stop trying to push what's good for the immediate sale and the immediate sign up, and think what's good for your ecosystem long-term that gives you long-term stable growth over time.
Okay. So that's interesting take. So let's talk a little bit about technical SEO. Now, with the increasing importance of user experience and page speed, how does Wix ensure its technical SEO foundations remain solid and competitive?
I mean, so I want to say two things about performance. I think like SEOs have kind of blown performance out of the water, or out of proportion rather. And I think Google's partly to blame because what they wanted to do with Core Web Vitals was try to like make the web more improved from a performance point of view, which would save them a lot of money. I don't think it's been effective at all. I think what people have basically seen, I think you've seen Google themselves do this because some of their pages, Core Web Vitals, stink, is people decide when they want the trade-off and when they don't want the trade-off. I think a lot of the things that would get you Core Web Vitals would also mean less conversions. So websites, I know this for a fact, will say, we're not going to optimize for Core Web Vitals here. We're going to optimize for the conversion. I want that very heavy image there. I want that gift. I want whatever it is there because it brings me conversions, which is why I think Core Web Vitals has been ultimately a failure because it forced a trade-off. If you want to improve performance across the web, you can't force a trade-off. It has to work together. Right. So leaving that aside for a minute, where Core Web Vitals, and Google has said this, and basically every SEO study on the planet from SEMrush to BrightEdge have basically shown this, where Core Web Vitals matter is basically nowhere, except where you have a runoff, where you have two pages that are very similar, that Google now needs to decide, like, what's going to tip the scales. So Google said that that's where we look at Core Web Vitals. So for example, in the news space, Core Web Vitals is very, very important. Syndicated content, I'm ABC News and I'm NBC News. We have the exact same content. We're just pulling it from the AP. Page speed is going to be a deciding factor, for example, one of the deciding factors.
Right.
That said, page speed is, I think, predominantly, or performance is predominantly way more important for consumer satisfaction in most cases than it is for SEO. So one of the things that we'll look at, we have an entire team dedicated to constantly improving things. So when Google, by the way, switched from FID to INP, we were one of the teams that Google was talking to about how do we best go about making that change. Right. What's the best way to make the change from focusing on first input delay to interaction to next our team is one of the teams working with Google hand in hand to make that change possible. So we're constantly talking to Google, we're talking to Bing, we're talking to a lot of different players in the performance field to make sure that what we're doing to make sure that what the changes that search engines make actually make sense for the web. And because we're talking with them, we're making those changes inside of our own platform to make sure that our users are getting the maximum benefit from a performance point of view from our platform before Google even makes the change, for example.
Okay. Because most of the time businesses comes to us and we talk about speed, and then we end up, they were, no, I just want my speed. And we just pull up the top 3 results and we say, look at that. Well, I mean, why are we? It's like the 100-meter dash rate in the Olympic where it just mattered for the winner was with 0.05 second. That's where it only not thankfully somebody else spoke, so I can always refer to this podcast. So they say, you just cooking up because you don't want to do it. I said, no.
I'll quote or paraphrase Barry Schwartz from Search Engine Land and Search Engine Roundtable about it. He's like, why are you spending so much of your time focused on this? There's got to be bigger things that make a bigger impact.
Yes, unless the site is visibly slow, I don't think anything else matters.
If it's exceedingly slow to the point where users are going to bounce and Google is going to bounce, then you should fix that.
Yes, that's the only thing. Right. So let's talk about the future of SEO. Looking ahead, of course, not everybody sees that very bright, but where do you see the future of SEO heading, and what should the SEOs be preparing for in the next 5 years? I know none of us can prepare for the next 1 year for that matter's sake, but still, your take.
I think I was talking to my counterpart at Wix, Crystal Carter, the co-host of our podcast, Surps Up, about, is SEO dead? And one of the points that she made, I thought was a really nice point, was that no, SEO is not dead, but I think how we think about SEO might be dying. And that's, again, as we mentioned before, this idea of SEO being very siloed off from other marketing disciplines. I think over the years, you've kind of seen like a merger between SEO and, say, content strategy or content marketing. I think that's like a precursor to what SEO is actually going to look like, when SEO is actually going to be. It's going to be a much more multidiscipline activity. It's going to consider the needs of other disciplines much more than it currently does. And I think you're going to see SEO be integrated into other activities, right? It's integrated into my content strategy. It's integrated into my brand strategy, right? If I'm a brand marketer, I would be thinking about how can I build brand power? How can I position my brand in a certain way that makes me an authority on a certain subject or sub-subject? And now, how can I leverage that brand power for SEO? And I think brands hopefully will be thinking about exactly that, which will create more opportunity for SEOs, but it'll create more opportunity for SEOs from a very different or unique point of view or context.
So how is Wix positioning itself in this SEO landscape, to lead in this SEO landscape?
I mean, we're all in on SEO. I think it's probably one, from a user point of view, it's probably one of the more popular topics among our audience, among our user base. It's also one of our greatest growth channels. So when we say like we're an SEO first company, we literally mean we're an SEO first company in terms of the product, in terms of what our audience is interested in, and in terms of what we actually do for our own growth. It's first and foremost at the top of our mind, what is going to happen with SEO, and how do we adopt SEO practices that are going to position us for long-term success in 5 years from now, kind of thing.
Okay. That's interesting to have an SEO first platform for people to use. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, you host the SEO Rand podcast, of course. What inspired you to start it, and what's your approach of creating engaging content?
I host a lot of podcasts. I do the SEO Rant podcast. I do Wix's Surps Up podcast, which is another SEO podcast, and I co-host Edge of the Web's news podcast every week. And I guess our daily SEO news series on YouTube is also syndicated across podcasts, I believe. So that's also a podcast. It's new, it's called. On the SEO Rant side, that really started as a side thing. I wanted to continue to have conversations with SEOs just for my own sake, to be connected with people, to put out some really interesting content, to give SEOs a chance to speak about SEO in a like unfiltered kind of way. So that's how that basically started. It wasn't meant to grow, a million users. It wasn't meant to grow my brand. I really just wanted to connect with other SEOs and put out content, put out the conversations that SEOs would have behind the scenes, but put it out there in public.
Okay. And so what's your approach to creating engaging content?
So engaging content, I think it's two things. My personal approach, there's nothing to do with what we do on the Wix SEO side. My personal approach is to be a little bit real. Maybe my posts aren't the most polished posts, like 5 ways to do whatever. That's not what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to give you like, what am I actually thinking? Or to give you a contrarian point of view. Like if everyone's all hot about this, maybe pump the brakes on that because of this reason. So I'm trying to give you just a little bit of a different take. I'm also giving you a more of a conceptual take, maybe to my detriment, to steer away from 3 practical things you can do. I'd rather give you a mindset. Here's the mindset that you can take and now apply that to whatever you want to apply it to, kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Mordy, thank you for sharing your valuable insights. Is there anything you are particularly excited about that's coming at Wix or in the SEO world that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, look, on our SEO hub side, we're putting out a new 100th episode of our podcast soon. It's going to be a live podcast. You can tune in and join us and see how many times I flub my intros. That's another podcast. Yeah, right. And we're putting out some new resources, downloadable resources on our SEO hub. So check those out as well. And we're always putting out new content. I'm always excited about that.
Okay. And are there any books or resources you recommend?
Because I don't have any books on top of my head. We keep an eye on what Aleda Solis is doing and what Glenn Gabe is doing. As I mentioned before, those are like Lily Ray as well. Keep an eye on with the content they're putting out. They're like that running record, especially Lily and Glenn, about what they're putting out around the algorithm updates. It's almost like a running record of what's happening in the SEO world. I'm always excited to see what they're saying, and I would highly recommend you keep up with them.
Yeah, even Google is noticing them now.
Google's knows them for a long time.
Yes, I meant they are very active now.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, right. So, and how can our audience stay connected with you and follow your work?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So look for me on LinkedIn under my name, Mordy Oberstein. I'm on X as well. My handle's @Mordy Oberstein. So look for me there. I try to be really, responsive. So if you reach out to me there, I try to actually answer you. So I will answer you if you reach out to me.
Okay. And the listeners can reach out for their Wix pains as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to take feedback and questions.
Right. Okay. Thank you once again for joining us, Mordy. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot of value.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time. Thank you.